Web3, you've probably heard the term at least once, so what does it even mean? Well, Web3 doesn't just refer to the new wave of the internet. It represents a handful of ideas which bring together entirely new models and ways of thinking. Ways of thinking around our governments, our companies, and our other societal structures. Web3 is coming. Web3 is here. The core characteristic of Web3 is decentralization. If you're in the crypto world or following me on any of my crypto channels, this word comes up a lot. Decentralization may solve many of the issues that we have with our current internet, or Web 2. These issues include security, data breaches, centralized control, tech monopolies, and government intervention. And what Web3 could ultimately do for companies, governments, and us in taking control of our data back. So let's dive right in to Web3. Elsewhere on my YouTube, you'll find my playlist for my beginner's guide to cryptocurrency and blockchain, where over the next 10 weeks, though we are on week 3 now, we'll be going through all of the fundamentals and basics of crypto and blockchain. And who am I? I'm Karen, I work in Web3, and I'm obsessed with all things data, security, privacy, tech, crypto, blockchain, etc. I don't sleep a lot. So at a very high level, let's compare Web 1, 2, and 3. So with Web 1, with the global library, the idea was we're putting the information out there, and people can read that information. And then with Web 2, with global publishing, or the movement of global publishing, we really saw people being able to read that information and then write their own information and upload that onto the internet. With Web 3, we're seeing a movement towards read, write, and own. We're taking control back of our data. We're moving to an open, more trustless, more permissionless network. How are we doing that? Well, largely through smart contracts, protocols, and technologies like blockchain technology. So you can see that this is really a movement encapsulating a number of technological changes and other trends, many of which were brought on by the pandemic and just what's happening around us. In my beginner's guide to crypto and blockchain, I'll talk a lot more about these key concepts and key features like decentralization and openness and trustlessness. But let's start with a brief comparison. So if I want to send you Bitcoin, I can do that online. I don't need to go through a bank. That is an element of decentralization. You see, the power is taken away from the bank and back to me in that instance. So with Web3, we're going to see a lot more trends like this, with decentralized data networks and decentralized blockchains and technologies, where middlemen are removed from the equation. And because of the blockchains like Ethereum building and providing a trustless platform, where the rules are unbreakable and the data is fully encrypted. That transaction of Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency it is recorded on the blockchain. It is immutable, it can't be taken back, it can't be hacked. So ownership is another key feature of Web3. With Web3, end users will have full data ownership. The data is transferred through the network will also be completely encrypted. So if I want to send my information to any company, any tech company, any bank, any healthcare provider, any of my information to anywhere, with Web3, once fully implemented, that will be ultimately my choice. I will know what's going where, I will see where it's gone, and I will see what that company has done with it. This could lead to a reduced platform dependency, which could also go to one of the big problems we have in society today, which is a complete monopolization of tech companies and complete ownership of our data, complete collection, ownership, and sales of our data without transparency around what's actually happening with our information. We have a long way to go with Web3 if we're comparing it to something like Web 2. But as the technology develops and improves and the platforms and systems become better connected and interoperable, and then if we add AI and machine learning and all of the leaps and bounds that are being made in that space, what we could potentially be looking at is a much better organization of our information and the systems that use that information. Just a little clue, that's every system. That's our internet, our healthcare systems, our education systems, our everything. Information and applications and technology are everywhere around us. Now imagine what all of those technologies and improvements can do if we use that information for the better. If we cut out the dead weight of government, of companies, of corruption, of loss. If things are up in the cloud and we see what's happening, imagine what that could do for us. Let's recap some of the trends of Web 1, 2, and 3. While I was doing my research for this episode of Tech Talks, there are a lot of conceptual phrases and buzzwords and you know the drill, but what does it all actually mean? What are some rock hard examples of what this looks like? Okay, well with Web 1, it was a big deal when the desktop and the browser and the computer started, and there was that read aspect that we talked about. So there were ads and a little bit of e-commerce was starting. With Web 2, with mobile and cloud and social, we started seeing things like streaming media, the start of the sharing economy, the rise of subscriptions and scaled platforms. So we've already seen all of those things. So let's have a look at some of the things we've already started seeing in Web 3 and that we're going to see a lot more. Well, we're definitely going to see more of AR and Metaverse, and I've got a Tech Talks episode of the Metaverse coming up next week. And then we're going to see a lot more commerce and digital economy power. The creator economy, which is really convenient for me, is pitted to be one of the most important economies coming up because we have that read, write, own, and our data is back in our control as creators. We'll also hopefully be seeing the rise or the re-return of privacy anonymity. When I mean return of privacy, I mean from a time before the internet, because I'm not sure if we've collectively had it since then. I've touched on the potential impact and power of Web 3, but what we could be looking at here is that it could fundamentally expand the scale and scope of both human and machine interactions, far beyond what we can imagine today. These interactions ranging from seamless payments to richer information flows to trusted data transfers. This is going to be a massive theme of Web 3. The accuracy and verifiability and reliability of information can really change a lot of our systems. For example, Web 3 can enable us to interact with any individual or machine in the world without having to pass through fee-charging middlemen that own our data and charge us for it. The shift could enable a whole new wave of previously unimaginable businesses. Do you think when Web 2 came around or Web 1 came around or the internet started, they had any idea that it would, in a matter of a couple of decades, be in every device we use, every aspect of our lives? We're hopefully going to see a move from global cooperatives, that tech monopoly that I mentioned, to decentralized autonomous organizations. I talk a lot about DAOs, and I will in future as well, and self-sovereign marketplaces, data marketplaces. Remember, our information will be ours again, and we'll be able to declare who it can and can't be shared to. So, key features of Web3, I just noticed that said privacy and security twice. Obviously, very important. Privacy and security, guys. Internet protocol networks and privacy and security. Okay, just checking. Privacy and security, yeah. Let's have a quick look at some of the key leaders of Web 1, 2, and now 3. So we've got the OGs, we've got Amazon, Netscape, Yahoo, eBay, MSN, RIP, AOL, Napster, RIP, MySpace, Google. So now we're kind of heading into the read-write, social, mobile, Wikipedia, Windows, Flickr, iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, WordPress, Skype, Facebook, Tumblr, Bitcoin, Airbnb, Spotify. Are we veering into Web3, perhaps? Litecoin, Stripe, IOTA, SIA, storage, decentralized storage, storage A? I don't know. I've just researched it a lot. I don't know if I've ever heard it said. Monero, privacy coins, Ethereum, Cardano, Tezos, Binance, Brave, Steemit. Yeah, we're heading into Web3. Here's an interesting exhibit from the recent Goldman Sachs report into the Metaverse, which I will do a separate episode, possibly its own episode on. It is a beast of a report. But we can see Metaverse Google search interest, right? Pretty quiet. We had the Roblox direct listing pumped up a little bit. And then, of course, the Facebook change to Meta. So if Facebook, one of the biggest companies in the world, is declaring to the world, we're going Meta, we're going Web3, I don't know, hashtag probably nothing, right? As Web3 develops, we're going to start seeing entirely new ecosystems emerge, including in spaces like social networks, exchange services, and DeFi apps, messaging, storage, sharing files and data through a peer-to-peer connection. So again, that concept of decentralisation. Insurance and banking, streaming of video and music, remote jobs and browsers. So you can see it's kind of got its tentacles into everything, and it definitely will as time goes on. While this is an episode of Tech Talks, I do like to keep things relatively high level. But let's go through this diagram breaking down the blockchain technology stack for a Web3 company or system. So we've got our application layer where we're going to log on. We're typically going to do that through decentralized browsers and apps, as I just mentioned in the slide before. We're then going to see services and optional components around oracles, wallets, digital assets, governance, DAOs, smart contracts, digital IDs, data feeds, multi-signatures, state channels. You guys have probably, if you're in the space, heard a few of those terms. So those things are going to pop up a lot more. And then at the protocol layer, this is where we get into the tech of, is it a blockchain? Is it a DAG? Is it proof of work? Is it proof of stake? Etc. Then we've got our network layer. Peer-to-peer networks, trusted execution environments, roll your own. Basically, how data is packaged, addressed, transmitted, routed, and received. And remember, all of this at a network layer is happening encrypted, in an encrypted way, which again is that concept of privacy and security. And then at the infrastructure layer, we're looking at that in-house infrastructure or blockchain as a service to control the nodes, the network, or the tokens, or the storage. There are various aspects to various, strings of technology depending on what system you're looking at. But this is the general breakdown, really the nitty-gritty of what is Web3, how to get onto Web3. Well, it's just the whole thing. Let's go back in time for a moment and look at what Tim Berners-Lee envisioned when he spoke of the Semantic Web. Berners-Lee, basically the father of the internet, said that I have a dream for the web in which computers become capable of analyzing all the data on the web, the content, links, and transactions between people and computers. A semantic web which makes this possible has yet to emerge, but when it does, the day-to-day mechanisms of trade, bureaucracy, and our daily lives will be handled by machines talking to machines. The intelligent agents people have touted for ages will finally materialize. So my question to you is, with the emergence of distributed ledger technology, DLT, or blockchains and other technologies, and AI and machine learning, will we see this semantic web where the machines work amongst themselves to deal with the chaos, wow, that was an ominous sound, the chaos that humans have created and the chaos that our unorganized information, does really not help? I don't know. I mentioned earlier that we have a long way to go. So here are some of the challenges of Web3 implementation. Well, firstly, we're looking at the vastness of the internet, how much information and junk is already out there, and not just the information on it, but the actual systems of the internet, the cables, the infrastructure. Then there's the reliability of data. This semantic web, or this dream world where our machines sort out our systems and we drop a lot of dead weight and our transactions are transparent and reliable, and we can see what's happening with governments and companies and our money and our information. That only works if that information is reliable. Then we have challenges of scalability and interoperability, and if you're in the crypto space, neither of those things will be a surprise to you. So let's recap what we've learned on Web3 and talk a little bit more about what that could mean for companies. So blockchain technology seems to be that driving force of this next-gen internet, Web3. Web3 enables tokenized economic interactions without intermediaries. So that's not just in terms of cross-border or peer-to-peer payments, but also we're talking about the token economy and the internet of value, which are concepts that I'll probably unpack in another video. But this is hopefully just helpful context to how all of these things are fitting together. So if Web3 provides that unique set of data, a universal state layer, also referred to as the ledger, which is collectively managed by the network of trusted or untrusted computers, this unique layer allows us to send digital values in the form of tokens, entirely peer-to-peer, again cutting out that middleman. I mentioned DAOs earlier. DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations, could be the potential future of work. Bankless HQ did an awesome article and podcast on DAOs as the future of work, and I hope to unpack it in a separate video as well. These types of organizations are tokenized and turn the idea of an organizational structure on its head. Which, if you look at some of these companies, we might need this, guys. Offering real, liquid, and equitable ownership to larger portions of stakeholders and aligning incentives in new and interesting ways. I'll unpack in a lot more detail how this is done, but it can be done through things like governance tokens that reward and incentivize people. It's a DAO, really, if it comes down to it, is a all for one and one for all system. You get out what you put into it. We're incentivized to make it work because we have skin in the game. And maybe that's a system we need to look towards. So another, recap of the key concepts of the potential of Web3 for our economy and our systems and our companies. We've got the token economy. We're going to see a lot more of that. NFTs, hello. Blockchain and ledgers and that kind of tech, DAOs and governance tokens and other tokens. I talked about the different kinds of tokens in week 2 of the Beginner's Guide to Crypto and Blockchain. Shared ownership and liquidity. That is a concept I'll unpack a lot in week 5 of the guide when we start learning about DeFi and transparent business practices. That'll be exciting to see. So I'll wrap up with this question to you. If Web 1 was about companies creating the content and companies earning the money, and Web 2 was about us creating the content and companies still earning the money, could Web 3 be about us creating the content, us keeping the data or owning the data, and us earning the money? I don't know. Well, I work in Web3, so personally can confirm yes, but let's see what happens for the space. So guys, stay in touch with me, connect with me, let me know what you thought of this first episode of Tech Talks. And I especially would love to hear from other professionals in the privacy, security, Web3, development, government, DAO space, because I have a ton of Tech Talks planned. And I have my areas of specialty and I want to learn from other people in the space. So let's do it. So thanks so much for coming with me again. And you guys know the drill. Like, subscribe, follow. You can support me for free. You can support me in those ways. I have my OGs on TikTok that have somehow gotten me to 90,000 followers, which is ridiculous and amazing. I am going to need you guys to start supporting me on YouTube now that I've finally got the guts to do this channel and have these important conversations that need to be had. So, love it. I will see you guys next week for Tech Talk number 2 on the Metaverse. Thanks so much. That is Crypto Karen out.